good. Get out of here.
Corruption is, it's good for somebody, just not us, not the people.
Putting human beings. They gave us a DEA. Nixon gave us a DEA. I was in jail for it. They're putting thousands and millions of Americans and arresting them for marijuana. It's ridiculous. The district of corruption.
Well, I think we're in agreement. We've discussed this before.
I'm not on that. I go on. You know what? I would like both of you guys to read Battlefield America. Battlefield America has a foreword by Ron Paul, and it shows you what the big federal bureaucracy is doing against human beings in this country. In our own country, they have wars, and it's called Battlefield America. We have 2.5 million people in prison right now, over half of them just because of war on drugs. Look into those concepts. That's where we need to fight. And the district of corruption supports it.
Yeah.
Well, there has to be some sort of a compromise between government and local communities. While you say government control, you can't possibly have no government control. I mean, what are you going to do when you need roads to be paved and infrastructure to be fixed? If you're in a poor community, you can't possibly raise that kind of money.
That's what you do at the state and local level. Most your roads in this country are done.
But if you're from a poor state, Ed,
until Eisenhower started the interstate highways, the federal government wasn't involved in highway building. Never.
No, I know that's true.
That's a state and local issue, and you handle it state and locally. And 95% of our roads are handled that way. We need to get away from the district of corruption, shut the frickin' thing down, and end the war on drugs and bring them back to the states, and the health care, and the education. That's all what it's done at the states. And education, for the most part, 90% is done at the state level, but the federal government still keeps trying to probe into it and say that's not where their position is supposed to be. Never was. Especially the Department of Education wasn't informed until 1979 under Carter. The OSHA was put in by, and EPA was put in executive order by Nixon.
Yeah, but
you must be a Nixon lover if you love the EPA. The EPA should be done at the state level also.
Yeah, but Ed, OSHA protects the health of the workers who are in these, You
put a government uniform on them, it's going to make it right. You government worshiper.
Well,
if you want to worship, so be it.
No, Ed, listen for a second. Ed, listen for a second. Back in the 40s and 50s, when the government was testing... No, listen, please. Listen, the government was testing nuclear bombs, and they told the soldiers, don't worry, you don't need any protection. Go in there and clean up. And then, well, wait, and then 20 years later, they found out that not only are they sick, but their children develop cancers, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, bring it. But Ed, bring that now to Ed. Wait a minute. Time out, Ed. Bring that now to the future, okay? And the present, and you have, management telling workers, "Oh, it's perfectly safe. Don't worry about it." If you didn't have OSHA coming in to tell the manufacturers that it's hazardous to the health of their workers, and they risk being sued, and the workers risk coming down with all kinds of pulmonary diseases.
You don't need OSHA to warn them. People
Yeah,
are
you
gonna
do. You know
sue
why?
when things happen
Because
badly.
anybody.
You know
No,
what? And that's where Big Brother. That's where Big Brother government is wrong. Big
Ed.
Brother government came in. Westinghouse just went bankrupt. Westinghouse just went bankrupt last week. You've probably heard of Westinghouse before. And, I fought Westinghouse. I took them to a trial by jury. Back in the 70s, there was big anti-nuclear movements going on. Nuclear power is bad. But nuclear power is put in place by the federal government, the NRC, and the Price-Anderson Act of 57. They says, you better get into this business. It was the height of fascism. They made Westinghouse and other companies take on nuclear power, which is a bunch of bullshit. It's all about what Eisenhower warned us about. The nuclear, the military industrial complex.
the complex, yeah.
Been the moving, and they told us back in the 60s, all this greatest things when I was a kid growing up, and I was born in the same county in the same year as me, 1955, is when commercial nuclear power came upon. But it's a big lie. It was nothing but a big government lie, and that's what big federal government does to us. It lies to us all the time, and you want to stand up for their lies, and I say, down with them, up with the people.
Well,
and it's a cesspool, and it's the district of corruption, and they were corrupted then, and they'll continue to be corrupt.
Well, you're certainly passionate about what you have to say. I will say that, Ed.
Oh yeah, Westinghouse went bankrupt, and you know what? They beat me on my first trial because they said, they had me come up there, and I had a big picture of the devil coming out of a nuclear power plant, and in 1979, it's like saying, hell is producing radioactivity. Heaven came naturally. We have all the natural wind, the energy, and stuff we need. But, producing, splitting atoms to make energy, why won't they let, if it's such a wonderful energy source like they told us it was, why won't they let Iran have it? Because it's a lie. It's nothing about that. It's all about the military-industrial complex. And the people are now seeing that, and Westinghouse went bankrupt. But I tried to shut them down and was arrested by the nuclear police in 1979. And I told them in a trial by jury, I pulled out the Bible and read out of Deuteronomy, chapter verse 29:30. Go to Deuteronomy, read 29:30. I call heaven and earth to bear witness against thee. I place before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Choose life so thou and thy seed may live. Nuclear power is bullshit. It's death. It has nothing to do with life.
Well, you left me speechless, Ed.
Go read Deuteronomy, chapter 29. You've heard of the Bible. It's the most well-written, most published book in the world. You've heard of it, right?
That much is true. That I got to agree with you on.
Okay.
There are more versions of
29:30. And you'll see and I took Westinghouse trial by jury, and we were going to, but the judge says, we're not here. And I'm into FIJA, which is Fully Informed Jury Association. They kind of come back to common law, come back to the people, bring it back to the community. Don't let Big Brother government run us. And that's what you want. No. Say no. Bring it back to the community. Bring it back to the states. And we're shutting them down. And we're bringing back the legalization of marijuana state by state. It's a wonderful thing. And these two things I love, man. Because I fought very hard for them in my life. And nuclear power's going down, and pop power's going up.
Well, I mean, any time they want to expand nuclear power plants, there are always
goes down.
There are always tremendous crowds, that picket and protest, and get their point across, just like you would. I mean, a lot of people have said
I've
enough.
Been doing years and years, and I'm telling you, it's good to see the end result. Nuclear power's going down. Westinghouse has gone bankrupt. And pop power's coming up, And you guys better understand that. Because that's the way it's going to be. Because that's the truth.
All right. Listen, Ed, thanks a lot.
All right, man, guys. Always good talking to you.
Same here.
I bring a little different than you're used to, I think.
No, but that's okay. That's what the show is all about.
We like that.
You know, we told you when you first called up.
For allowing me to bring up different perspective, man.
All right, Ed.
Best, man.
You take care.
You're my heroes for doing that.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Ed. I appreciate it.
All right.
All righty. Take care.
You be good now.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ed from Orlando. I would say a rather frequent caller. He winds up calling about every 3 weeks or so, basically at least once a month. And you can tell from what he had to say that he is a big states' rights advocate. He's between the states' rights and libertarian. You know, that's how he feels. The less government, the better. And I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who feel the same way. Not just Ed, but at least Ed calls in and he says what he has to say. And Felix and I welcome his point of view. Certainly, we welcome anybody's point of view who as long as you're not preaching the overthrow of the government, so to speak. And that's just how we feel, But a friend of mine from Florida down just sent in, said that he's in the chat room and he's listening, and we welcomed him back. He was visiting his grandson, son, and daughter-in-law in Chile. That's where they lived for a while. They used to live in the Washington State area. And now he's back from his visit. Okay, no limits to how far grandparents go to visit their children and grandchildren. What can I tell you?
That is true. That is true.
Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the two songs we played. I got to tell Felix that that's 2 weeks in a row that he had a couple of great songs. I actually understood the words and the music. Whether I could dance to it or not, I couldn't tell you. But
because you can't dance.
That's true. That's why I said I couldn't tell you. But I like slow dances. It's funny, when I was a kid growing up, I used to love to do a Lindy. A Lindy, a cha-cha. Okay, now nobody does a cha-cha anymore, and the Lindy has become West Coast swing. As my friend in Florida would tell you, he and his wife took lessons, and they just love it. They really enjoy. In fact, I'm surprised. The only reason he's home today is because they just came back from Chile and a wedding out on the coast. And like I said, ordinarily, Friday nights is their night to go dancing with friends. So, yeah. So what can I tell you? But we used to have more people calling in. Last week we had a very nice lady named Suzette from the L.A. area. No, L.A.? Was it?
I don't know.
No, I think it was north of L.A. Santa Barbara, I think. I think she was in the Santa Barbara area. And had a real nice discussion with her. I won't tell you how old she was, but she sounded very young. Okay, and when she told us how old she was, Felix and I couldn't believe it. She's a very young-sounding lady. And we had...
She was young.
Well, hey, when you're 68, anything below that is young. But then again, age, my grandmother used to say, age is just a number. You could be 68 and think like a 45-year-old, and you could be 45 and think like a 75-year-old. So, unfortunately, I have to put up with the latter when it comes to dealing with Felix. He's not 45, but he certainly acts sometimes like he's 75. I will tell you that.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Excuse me? Really? Okay. But, ladies and gentlemen, it is 10:15.
And we're going to put in another song. We had two in a row that were nice.
So we're going to go